Hi there, I'm Emily Perkins and this is The Good Word, a series about books and the people who love them. On the show this time, a famous guest drops in to talk about his favourite book. We get up close with the Real Life Book Club.
Abe said her son used to read a book till he got a girlfriend.
And in our documentary series, Under the Covers, Finlay Macdonald investigates the story behind another well-known New Zealand novel.
You read Sydney Bridge upside down now and think that it hardly made a ripple in New Zealand at the time. I mean, that must have been desperately disappointing for him.
But ahead of all that, let's get to our panel, keen to get into this week's book. First up, welcome to our favourite funny guy, to Radar. Hello,
Thank you.
Radar.
Hello, welcome.
And next, one of our best-known journalists and writers, Gordon McLaughlin. Hi, Gordon.
Hi, how are you?
And completing our panel, actor and avid reader, Jennifer Ward-Leland. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, Emily.
This week's book is a classic by one of modern writing's most tragic figures, Sylvia Plath. Better known for her poetry, Plath wrote her one novel, The Bell Jar, in 1963, shortly before her suicide at the age of 30. This autobiographical book, which has been reissued by Faber as one of their Faber First series, follows a young college student and her descent into madness. So, Radar, did it make you want to stick your head in the oven?
No, but it certainly made me want to invest in a gas oven just in case I was ever forced to read it again.
Oh.
No, it's the first half I thought was really romping along, and I thought, this is fantastic. And then it became that sort of weepy, annoying romance novel to suicide. And I thought, oh, this is utterly turgid.
OK.
I thought either kill yourself
It's a very quick transition too, isn't it?
It is.
It just jumped straight over. I thought there was no gradual move.
But do you think that's an illustration of what the mental illness is like, Jennifer?
Well, yes, I do. I thought it was a brilliant description of descent into illness. And actually, the interesting thing was for me, and I wouldn't normally say television affects my reading, but I had Mad Men on my mind all the time I was reading this, because particularly the women in Mad Men and how repressed they were and how much want and need they had to be someone and be something, and that's what I feel all the way through this, and she says it. You know, I didn't want to be in servitude to anybody. It's all the way through until she has her collapse.
Well, it's interesting to think about the illness as engendered by the time and the limited options for women, because, Gordon, the feminist sort of version of Plath is that she's a martyr to sort of sexual politics of the time.
It's quite wrong, in my opinion. I don't think it's fair at all. That she was at the forefront, or the feminist movement then was in its very angry stage because it was fighting against the odds, not like now perhaps, but it's still a very, very individual reaction that she had. And if you read her poetry, her verse is very bitter and very hard. Daddy, the poem she wrote, presumably about her father, is very, very vicious poem. She hated her mother. I didn't actually feel all that sad about it. It seems to me to be more a modern novel than of the times. I think it struck a chord then because people didn't write this sort of thing. They didn't reveal themselves.
That's right.
Whereas now they do.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about it in the current context of the misery memoir, because had she been writing now, she might have kept it a straight autobiography rather than fictionalising anything.
Putting it out under a false name and whatnot. But I found it in terms of I felt what it would be like to deal with someone who was going through this. Just, you know, the incredible frustration of page after page of, you get the sense of this person wallowing in their own despair when actually they're very sick, and you just wanted to grab her and shake her and slap her and put her in the sunshine and give her a glass of Chardonnay.
And yet you keep saying to yourself, how could a person who can analyse herself so accurately not come to some understanding about what was wrong with her?
But isn't that the definition of the illness?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, there's one brilliant phrase, I wish I could quote it, but she talks about understanding something so clearly and she realises that the truth of a statement, that she wasn't actually going to go any further, and she wasn't going to do her writing, it wasn't going to happen. And she realises the way you realise that your father is not your real father, or something like that. So, I mean, there's no doubting she's a very intelligent woman, and I think that's why she writes so intelligently about it. But it doesn't stop you being incredibly ill.
And what about the writing itself? Because that's very direct and fresh, and it reminded me, or it put me in mind of Catcher in the Rye, which was, you know, similar, set around a similar time, and almost a male version of, you know, that borderline mental
There is
health
some sloppy
problem.
writing in it, though, to me. There are some passages I think are pretty sloppy, but it's very readable and very... But I think the point about it is the self-obsession of everything. And she mentions her mother keeps saying to her, you know, you are totally self-obsessed. Try to think about other people.
But that's the bell jar.
That's right. And when she finally, she talks about all the time being under that bell jar, and you know, when it finally lifts, how you know, what a relief it is.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
well,
it is, and
that's
you
mental
do know
illness.
that when you are sort of down and depressed, and suddenly it does lift, and that fresh air almost comes up from the floor as that jar is lifted. But no, I found it very readable.
Well, and it is
readable,
very much a book of the time in terms of describing contemporary mental illness, because she would be treated quite differently now. You know, there's
And
different
also, I
medication
wonder what her
available.
options were after.
Yeah.
Will anyone marry her?
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
right. Well, Buddy says that to her.
That's
I
right.
wonder who will marry you now that you've been in here,
Exactly.
been in the institution.
Well, somebody did, and I can remember the times. I can remember the news reports at the time when people would boo Ted Hughes in the street because he left her for somebody else, and it was a terribly complicated time. And you're quite right; it would be dealt with entirely differently now, wouldn't it? She would be dealt with entirely differently.
She would.
We'd have a
and-
television ad, and Sylvia Plath would be on it, going, "I've had a mental illness."
Yes, that's right. Well, and we're still using the bell jar now to advertise, you know, not drinking too
Yeah,
much.
that's
But yeah, get out from under that.
Yes.
I can imagine a wonderful commercial with Sylvia Plath and Mike King. A wonderful juxtaposition of literary genres.
Okay, that sounds like something you could cook up for next week.
I think the best thing about it...
I'd hate to think of the end of that.
Yeah, it's stuck away here, is a recommended retail price of $14.99. What a wonderful price to get people into these great collection of first
It's a great
stories.
series of first novels
it is.
that Faber are reissuing, and they're doing them at this very, very affordable price. So, yeah, I agree. So, your final word on the book?
I loved it. I found it very sad, but I like a sad book.
Okay, great.
I found I enjoyed it. I found it very readable, but I didn't have as much sympathy for her as I think I probably should have. The self-obsession of the thing, which I know is deeply neurotic, I find a little bit tiresome.
Okay, and Radar?
Brilliant first half, second half. Oh, for God's sake, cheer up.
Okay.
Don't get a mental illness, you mean.
Oh, there you go.
Me
well,
too,
this
Ryder.
week's book was The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, published as part of the Faber First series. After the break, a special guest brings in one of his most loved books.